Okay, so we're going to do this as a question and answer session. So James is going to ask me 3 questions and I'll give you my view on things. And then I'm going to ask James another 4 questions. And then there's questions for you to ask us at the end. Okay, so James, let's go.
Right, question number 1. What is digital transformation?
Right, we'll start with the easy question first here, guys. So, I did a lot of research in trying to actually understand what we mean by digital and then digital transformation. And then I sort of latched onto this notion that actually digital transformation is 2 words built of a noun and an action. And I thought, well, actually, if I split that, what it is, it's a number of factors in my view. So it's things like we've moved away from having a personal computer or a desktop terminal. I mean, I started off life in testing on using VAX VMS systems. So these are client-server systems. The world now is very, very different. And as part of digital, we talk a lot about mobile, we talk a lot about different approaches, different tools to access content. It's no longer just having a desktop or a desktop app. It's a lot more. And it could be anything and everything in between. Hosted in-house. So I went through a phase of working with lots of clients about what a company potentially could make. There are some big SaaS providers out there who invest. So the security aspect of SaaS is steadily reducing. And it's actually becoming more of a risk factor to have your own hosted systems in-house. There's a little bit of a thought for you. Retain data. So all the data's in one place and it's of a manageable size. I've worked with a couple of clients now where we're moving into the big data arena. And by the notion of data, I mean, it's no longer something that will fit on 1 or 2 bits of hardware somewhere. This has to be scaled out, it's large, it's unpredictable. I'm working with a healthcare provider at the moment where they're trying to move data away from, they're taking data from hospitals, augmenting it, anonymising it, and then using that data to help inform pharmaceutical companies around how to build it, making business decisions. But they don't know what that data will look like. It's a voyage of discovery. You've got an idea of a structure, but will it actually be that? We don't know. 1 or 2 suppliers, well, some systems are multi-suppliers. James and I recently worked with a client where they had to deliver 1 digital platform system. They had 11 vendors involved in it, spread over 7 countries, 3 continents, everybody working in their own way. It's diverse. And then the final one is that it meets the defined business need. So the classic model of development is I have a set of requirements which I know I've modelled with my customers and I go away and deliver that. Now, a little bit like the example I just mentioned about this health data, is actually we don't really know quite what we're going to get. We think we might be able to use this data, so we're now going to go on a voyage of exploration. We're going to build out a platform that can securely take this data, but then can we actually use it? What else do we need to do? So we're embarking on a digital program, but the end condition is vague. We're doing architecting along the way, but we know we're going to have to iterate. So, to me, digital transformation is a number of things. It's no one thing. So, thank you.
Right. Second question. What are the test-specific challenges in digital?
Another one. Let's put, if you can move on to the next slide. So, there is no one challenge. You may be getting this theme for this, is that digital can mean lots of different things. And by the very nature of it, you have to do different approaches, think about a number of contexts. So, things like the culture. The culture of your organisation may need to change to adopt digital. The way that you think about your IT system is no longer a simple factor of, oh, I need something to look after my emails. Oh, okay, I can go to a number of vendors who will supply me with an emails hosted system. I can go to Microsoft Office 365, perfect, you know, it does the job, or Google Apps. I know a number of organisations, large organisations that are using Google as well. But then how do I integrate that with all of my other systems? And that cultural perspective on what is IT needs to change. And also it needs to change into a more exploratory view. I'm not talking about exploratory testing, but we plan to do this with the system, but it may well grow out into something else that we hadn't expected at the start. The environments, so from a pure testing perspective, you know, the classic issue around having a suitable test environment to run your tests on, and the associated data with it, becomes far more of a challenge, because if I've got Salesforce integrated with, hosted by Salesforce, I've got Oracle eBusiness as hosted by Oracle, I've got my own content management system, which I've hosted in the Azure cloud, and I'm trying to test how all of this integrates together. And how am I going to make sure that I've got all of the data lined up, presents fresh challenges. And approaching it from a traditional approach can cause problems in its own right. Where else? So technology, you know, we're talking mobile, we're talking SaaS, we're talking about varieties of operating systems. I mean, the days of just making sure that it works on a Windows machine is gone. For a lot of people, actually, your first port of call is, does it work on a mobile device? So it's a complete shift. Your technologies as well move away from traditional sort of SOA type systems into APIs and into more dynamic use of APIs. I know SOA has API, but it's into dynamic approaches. You talk about microservices. You know, we've recently worked with a microservice organisation that are trying to deliver microservices in a waterfall fashion and just testing when they've got a fully integrated system. It completely fell apart for them. Where else can we? So, you know, what is the business going to do with this system? And what could this potentially lead into? So it could potentially lead into a number of different areas of business. So the system may well end up changing again. Digital transformation, we've tended to find, is that you end up with a product, but that's not your end goal. That product then evolves to meet what else is happening in the business. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Third question, how to structure testing for digital?
Okay. So, the first question I get is that people look at testing and the first thoughts are, oh, we've got technologies, what are all these new technologies? Or we focus in on test tools. For those of you who are dyed-in-the-wool test managers, you might recognise some aspects on here. This is actually a test strategy framework. That although I no longer advocate that you need to write a test strategy, if you're approaching the testing of a new program, is to think about the areas. So environments, what are we going to do with environments? How are we going to manage them? Don't leave it to the last minute, because sometimes environments and test environments can cost millions, may require additional resources to help support them, or you may need to move into new directions like hosting and buying space from Amazon Web Services to then be able to containerize it. So there's new technology. Have we got people who are able to spin up these environments using Docker, using Jenkins, spin up an environment? This is all new stuff. You want to be focusing on building the product, not necessarily building the process underneath it. What tools are we going to use? And it's the right tool for the right job. There's no one tool that will, at the moment, do everything. But there's the right tool for the right job, and having to think about that up front. Processes. Your notions of configuration management and change management do not go away. Change management actually becomes a critical factor because it is so easy, and we've seen this happen, where people get led down the street thinking, oh yeah, well, we could do this with the technology, oh, we can do a bit more. And then suddenly they've built a whole product set or invested weeks of work in something that actually wasn't really needed. It's a temptation because the technology is so exciting and the opportunities are there. So how do you manage change? How do you do your configuration management? Because you may need to move away from what you've traditionally had. How do you manage defects? You know, I know it's a bit of a boring subject, but you know, one of the core outputs from testing is a list of defects. So how are you going to manage those? If you're in a full-blown agile way, are these defects then coming through as tasks, or are they coming through as stories? How do you mix all of this up? Test policy, it's fallen out of fashion at the moment. But there is an ISO standard for software testing, by the way. It's ISO 29119. And in there, it talks about the different test techniques, structures for testing. So there is an international standard out there around testing, so you don't have to reinvent all of this. But the idea is behind the policy is, what are we going to try and do and when? What is the purpose of our testing? And although it might sound like a daft question, it's often one of the hardest ones to answer. Give me 2 minutes. But people clearly, with some of the technologies that are coming along, your traditional methods of working no longer may work. You need to make sure that your people are educated, they've learned new techniques, that you're structuring either your vendors, if you're having your services provided by services companies, how are you going to engage with them so that they can deliver what you want in the timeframes that you want? You know, what is in scope and what isn't in scope? You know, particularly if you're testing something like a Hadoop system, where you're taking multiple input channels, defining the boundaries of where you're going to test from becomes critical. Because potentially you could say, actually, I'm going to try and simulate 500,000 people using their mobile phones and how we're going to pull this together. And then your test levels, and I talked about that earlier in the test automation piece around at what level do you test at? Okay. So we're going to do a bit of a swap over at this point. So James, as our test manager, you know, development methodologies, what works?
So, my opinion and my experience, basically, any test methodology will work if it's applied correctly. As some of the workshops and round tables today said, it's the control that you have, it's the plan that you have, it's the resources that you have in place, and things like shared goals, depending what methodology you don't. If the whole team works towards exactly the same way, same deliverable, same target, then you will get there. Communication, make sure everybody's got communication, understands what's going on. Daily stand-ups, briefings, start of the project, you actually get everybody together and say, this is what we're delivering, these are the timescales, these are your roles and responsibilities. Good control, so if you start getting project debt, someone can put contingencies in place to address that. Also, one of the big things I've found throughout testing lives is having the freedom to come back and to say, this doesn't work, without somebody going, you're wrong, that's not right. So, you know, if the project gives you the freedom to give the feedback that is needed, then obviously that will help make it work. Next.
Okay. One of the slides, good to see Radbury appear on that slide. I don't know if those people recognise rapid application development. But it doesn't, the principle here, as James points out, it's not methodology itself. So, why is test automation so valuable, James?
Okay. So, test automation. Lots of people always give criticism about the things it can't do. So I thought, why not have a little reminder today of the things it can do. So if you're going to go and sell test automation to your stakeholders, these are the sort of things that you want to say to them. It delivers our testing in a more rapid manner. We can make savings quite often of 50% or more. If you decide to use it, you can get it to provide continuous regression ability, i.e. it will run every night, and as your deliveries of that day or that week, it will speed through and it will provide regression testing that you need, find the defects in the change code. Blessing or curse, improve test execution transparency. Management always want to know how are we doing, how quickly are we doing, what defects we found. Automation can bring that to the projects that you run. Improve test coverage and defect detection. Obviously, you know, the faster you run it, the bigger your packs go, the more coverage you can provide. And then if things change, then obviously you hope to find the defects within that. So, building on from all the previous ones is cost effectiveness and reduction. Obviously you're going to have a saving if you manage to get the tool to automate the manual tests. And it doesn't always have to be not open source, but or even a product like the HP suite. You can actually have tools which are built in-house. When I was test manager at the LME, we actually had a test tool made out of VB and Excel. It was 20 days of delivery, it cost us 10k, but what it did do is reduce old manual testing from 6 months down to 11 days with the associated saving. The other thing is, don't forget, test tool can also be a tool for the business. I have two examples of that where we developed a test tool to do input for the testing. When we had a default scenario at one of the member firms, basically we were then able to actually get a test tool to help the operations staff to enter trades, to balance out and sell off their positions. Effectively, 2 days worth of input could be done in 4 hours. It allowed the business users to do much of their own day-to-day task and do the recovery that was needed. Now, next.
Okay, second from last question. So, what about non-functional requirements?
Okay, non-functional requirements. Effectively, you've got, I've broken it down into 6 areas. You've got performance, which is obviously speed, number of users, number of transactions that they pop through, how quickly it does things. But the thing you also need to remember is that it's not just performance now. It could be what's performance in 6 months, in a year, when you've got more and more data inside your system. You've got recovery. I'm going to treat recovery slightly different from operational. Recovery in my world, if something goes wrong, can you recover it? Are the procedures behind it actually robust enough to help you do it? I come from an operations background, and what I used to hate was 4 o'clock in the morning on the open recovery book, followed the steps and it didn't work. Recovery testing not only proves that it can be done, it can also prove background procedures behind it. That then feeds through to operational testing. Can the guys actually run the system? Can they do the upgrades? Can they do the backups? Can they do the restores? I've experienced with one vendor, when you're going to do the upgrade, he turned around and said, well, you can't have any of the data you've already got in the system. Oh, I'm sorry, that's back to the drawing board. we need that data there and then. Security has been touched on. Effectively, every system needs to be secure. Nowadays, you've got regulatory, i.e. compliance, security-wise, data protection-wise. Testing the unexpected. Always plan inside the unexpected. People say to you, I got told we had two computer systems, one with in the exchange, one in the clearinghouse. Network came in between, told that would never go down. We insisted on the test recovery. The business built their procedures, went live in September, Christmas Eve, the BT drilled through the cable. Because we tested it, we had procedures there, you knew exactly when we needed to invoke them. And finally, start early. The sooner you can actually move your non-functional testing forward in the testing cycle, whether it's Scrum, Waterfall or whatever, the sooner you'll find the problems, you're aware, the sooner you'll find the problems that are there, and the sooner you can actually start addressing them. Because I've seen times where performance or recovery problems and defects defined means the system needs to be totally rewritten. Right, and now we're back down to a minute. So, test environments and data. The key thing about modern test environments and data is if you're in the digital world, it's hosted outside of your organisation, like Stefan said. You need to have control. You need to identify to the vendors, delivery of an environment plan. Who's going to use what, where and when, and why, and what you're going to do with it. Structure and sizing. You've got to make sure it's big enough. If you're going to introduce automated testing, there's no point having a functional test system that can only do 4 transactions now when you want to put 20 through. Make sure you've got support. Key if it's hosted somewhere else. Tell them what you're going to do, the day you're going to do it. In fact, you need bodies to actually support you if it goes wrong. Finally, you've got to manage technical debt. Everything will do. Don't forget, it's not just the applications under test that actually need Windows upgrades, Firefox releases, but it's actually the hardware that you run your test tools on. And with that, we've got about 8 seconds left. As normal, it's down to delivering people to do it in a shorter amount of time.
That's a fair statement. I actually was just going to add something really. So I've heard a lot today, and I heard in your presentation about investment.
Yeah.
Subtly, we're going to do something different. Now I would say, for those of you who are brave, go to your budget holder and your CFO and say, I need you to invest this now, and for that, you only give me this in my budget next year, but I'd also give you 3 or 4 measures that will prove where we are now, and next year will prove that we're faster, we find bugs earlier, and actually in terms of satisfaction from our stakeholders, it's increased. If you do that, generally, the check gets written very quickly. Of course, you are on the hook massively for that, but I've heard a lot about investment today, and you have to think about the budget holders in your company and what's important to them, and it will be about payback and results, rather than just, we're a techie company, we want to do something smart with a new idea, a new tool, a new way of doing things. So, any questions for these guys?
Silence.
I think you answer every question in your deck, and that's because you're a delivery man, and that's what we do, isn't it? Yeah?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Round of applause, please.